All right. I do have another story today of another one of these anti-vax, unvaccinated people that has died of COVID. But this one is particularly insidious because of the details. This is someone who wanted to get infected. They wanted the immunity that they believed getting infected with the virus would give them, and they are now dead. Hana Horka, a Czech singer, is dead after intentionally getting infected with COVID. The BBC by Ben Tobias reporting on this. A folk singer from the Czech Republic has died after deliberately catching COVID. Hana Horka was 57 years old, was unvaccinated, posted on social media that she was recovering after testing positive, and was dead 2 days later. Her son said she got infected on purpose when he and his father had the virus so she could get a recovery pass to access certain venues. The Czech Republic reported a record number of COVID cases yesterday. Mr. Rek and his father, who were both fully vaccinated, both caught COVID over Christmas, but he said his mother decided not to stay away from them, preferring instead to expose herself. He said she should have isolated for a week because we tested positive, but she was with us the whole time. Proof of vaccination or recent infection from the virus is required in the Czech Republic to go to many venues, including movie theaters, bars, and cafes. His mother was a member of one of the oldest Czech folk groups, Asonance. She had wanted to catch COVID so there would be fewer restrictions on her. 2 days before she died, she wrote on social media she was recovering. Quote, "Now there will be a theater, sauna, a concert." Sunday morning, the day she died, she said she was feeling better and got dressed to go for a walk. Her back started hurting. She went to lie down in her bedroom. Her son says in 10 minutes it was all over. She choked to death. Although she was unvaccinated, Jan, her son, stressed his mother didn't believe in some of the more bizarre conspiracy theories about COVID vaccines. Her philosophy was she was more okay with the idea of catching it than getting vaccinated. Not that we would get microchipped or anything like that. There was no point in trying to discuss the issue with her, as it would get too emotional. Instead, he hoped that by telling his story, he could convince others to get vaccinated. That's the hope. How scary is it that she felt good enough to go for a walk and 10 minutes later was dead? That is absolutely horrifying. And we talk about sympathy. Every one of these situations is different. But this is someone who not only refused to get vaccinated, but deliberately got sick. She deliberately exposed herself to the virus, refused the best protection we have against serious illness and death when we have a highly effective and protective vaccine. Where is this on the spectrum of sympathy? I don't know. And there's a case to be made that big picture, the recovery passes are kind of a silly idea. Now, if you test positive in another country and you can't get back to the U.S., and because you've tested positive, testing may not be accurate for a long period of time. In that situation, it makes sense to say, I believe this individual has recovered. They should be allowed to go back to the U.S. That makes sense to me. If you have as a policy to come to indoor restaurants, you got to be vaccinated, or to go to movie theaters, you've got to be vaccinated. Vaccinated or recovery certificate doesn't seem like a very good idea, particularly since we don't really know that much, particularly in the context of Omicron. For how long are you protected after recovery? We just don't know the answers to those questions. It seems problematic to me. And so her whole goal here was, let me get sick to get better, to be recovered, to then be able to go places without being vaccinated. Even the pretext of that, even that as a pretext, does not seem logical to me. But another tragic story, unvaccinated person says, I'm going to go and get myself sick in order to recover and have immunity. It didn't work. She is dead. And we will have more on this on our Instagram.
Over in Europe right now, there is a growing trend of individuals attempting to intentionally catch COVID so that they don't have to get the vaccine. What's happening is that in a lot of European countries, Italy, one of the largest, they have very strict vaccine mandates in place. For a lot of venues, including restaurants, if you want to get in, you either have to show proof of vaccination or proof that you have recovered from COVID and therefore have some degree of natural immunity. So rather than going and getting the shot, many individuals are saying, I don't trust the shot, let me chance it with COVID instead. So they have started hosting COVID spreader events, some of them actually charging up to $150 to attend these COVID events, where they bring in COVID positive people, have them commingle with the individuals who have not yet been infected in hopes of giving them COVID. And they're doing this because they don't want to get the shot. So they're actually paying money to get infected with COVID because they're so just immovable in their anti-vaccine ideology. And at this point, I do think we have to start looking at anti-vaxxerism as an ideology in and of itself. These people are treating this like it's a religion. They're wearing it on their sleeve like it's a part of their personality. The only part of their personality, to be honest. And they're dying too, by the way. That's the other part of the story. It's not just, we're getting COVID so we don't have to show proof of vaccination. Yeah, the ones that survive don't have to show proof of vaccination. The ones that don't end up in hospitals on ventilators for the next 2 months, sure, they're better off. But they'd be much better off just getting the vaccine that has been distributed pretty much worldwide. A couple billion doses have been given across the planet. We're not seeing widespread death from vaccines. We're not seeing widespread injuries. But these people would rather take their chances with a virus that they claim, it's a 99.5% success rate. Okay. Do you want to be part of the 0.5% that doesn't survive? Because you can't guarantee that. You know, I think we're dealing with a global stupidity problem too of people who don't understand statistics. Means that basically out of every 100 people who get it, one of them is going to die. In fact, I think it's actually about 2 or 3 of them are going to die is the current trend. So those aren't great odds, folks. Learn statistics a little bit and then get back to me on that. But I bring this up again. This is obviously happening over in Europe. And of course, one high-profile person did already die. A Czech folk singer by the name of Hana Horka intentionally got herself COVID so she could continue to play shows without having to show proof of vaccination, and she died. And if you think this is going to be limited to Europe, you're kidding yourselves. We have already heard of things like this happening here in the United States. Certainly not as big and broad as what we're seeing over there in Europe. And part of that is because they do have much stricter standards because they're actually trying to contain the virus. But it'll make its way over here. Like the virus itself, what happens over there eventually makes its way over here. Folk musician in the Czech Republic over in Europe has died from COVID after intentionally catching COVID so that she could continue to perform with her band. This individual, Hana Horka, was an anti-vaxxer, did not want to get that vaccine, refused to get it. But throughout most of Europe, they have rules saying you cannot come into these venues unless you have either 1, proof of vaccination, or 2, proof that you recovered from the virus, so you have natural antibodies. And Miss Horka decided she would rather take her chances with the virus than with the vaccine. So when her fully vaccinated husband and son came down with COVID, mild COVID, because they were vaccinated, she decided to catch it from them, intentionally exposing herself so that she could catch it, get over it, show proof of recovery, and go back on tour with the band. Didn't work out like that. She died. 2 days before she died, she posted on social media, I survived.
It was intense, so now there will be the theater, sauna, a concert, and an urgent trip to the sea. And of course, the true irony here is that you could have already been doing all of that had you just gotten vaccinated. That's all you had to do. That's all you had to do. Your husband lost his wife. Son lost his mother. The family is grieving right now because of the stupid decision from this individual who thought to herself, actually not even thought to herself, thought out loud, I'm better off catching COVID than spending 15 minutes getting a shot and waiting to see if there's any quick adverse reactions. It didn't go well. I tell these stories not to gloat. I tell them because these need to be wake-up calls to the anti-vaxxers out there. The people who think, oh, natural immunity is so much better. COVID's no different than a cold or the flu. No, it's deadly. It is 100% deadly. And it's probably even more deadly for us over here in America because we don't have such great health care. We don't have universal coverage. There's millions of people walking around in this country right now with comorbidities, and they don't know it. You know, because they can't afford preventative medicine. You may not know what's happening in your own body. You may think, listen, I'm a healthy person. I can survive COVID, no problem there. Maybe you're right. Are you willing to literally gamble your life on that? As opposed to going to the nearest drugstore, hell, even supermarkets at this point, getting a shot? Like I said, sit there 15 minutes so they can check you for any immediate adverse reactions and going on your way. Yeah, you can have some side effects from the shots. Some people have reported flu-like symptoms that can last up to 2 days. And then they're fine. With COVID, we're probably going to hit 1 million Americans dead within the coming few months. Don't be part of that. Don't be one of those numbers. Don't become that statistic. You have a choice. Use stories like this, even if it's not an American. This is over in Europe. It doesn't matter. It's happening here too. Don't be like these individuals. Don't leave your family with a hole that can never be filled again. Do what you have to protect yourself and stop being so damn selfish and stupid.
Když jsem se spole vracela 2 havrany, jsem slyšela, jak jeden druhého se ptá.